In today's class, we are going to learn about the infinitive. So we're going in today's class, we will listen carefully to the title name, the infinitive. Now, if I give you an example, she kicks a ball. She kicks a ball. Then we have a verb, kick. We have a subject, she. And we have an object, ball. She kicks the ball. Okay? So then we say the verb here is supposed to be a finite verb. Okay? Now, we are talking about the infinitive, the title for today. The class that you're going to attend today is the infinitive. The infinitive. The example I have here for you is she kicks a ball. She kicks a ball. Let's look at the example. The verb kicks. When you say kick, that's called the verb. And we have a subject, she, and we have an object, a ball. Okay? So the verb kicks. And you got the object, the ball. The verb kicks is limited by a number of persons. Only one person here, she. So it is limited to one person. Now, therefore, the ball is kicked by just one single person. So we say this verb kicks is supposed to be a finite verb. What kind of verb? A finite verb. The verb kicks, that is supposed to be a finite verb. A finite verb. All right? Now I give you another example. To love is natural. To love is natural. Now let's look at the verb here. To love is natural. So in the second sentence, to love, we are talking about to love. In the second sentence, to love shows the action is denoted by the verb love. To love is natural. So when we are talking about to love, it is denoted by the verb love. It has no subject and it is limited by number and person. Now to love is natural. So we are talking about the subject, no subject. Here you have no subject and not limited by number. You can love any number of persons. So there is no limit. Therefore, we call such verb, to love, we call such verb non-finite or infinitive. Non-finite. So we call this verb non-finite. Non-finite verb. Alright? We call this a non-finite verb. Now, a verb which has a subject like this, she, and limited by a person and number of the subject, we call it a finite verb. The verb which has got a subject and it is limited by the person and number of the subject, then we call this a finite verb. In the case of the second sentence, to love, we are talking about non-finite verb. Here, a verb which denotes only an action without mention. To love is natural. So, a verb which denotes an action without mentioning the subject. Here, no subject for the second sentence. Therefore, we call it a non-finite verb, or we can call it the infinitive. Okay. Now, there are different types of infinitive. Types of infinitives are of three categories. One, the infinitive, the participle, and third, the gerund. So now let us look at the types of non-finites. The types of non-finites. You're looking at the types of non-finite. There are three categories. What are they? A, you have the infinitive. That's what we are doing. That's the title we are doing. The infinitive. B, we have the participle. The second category, the participle. And the third category, we have the gerund. The gerund. So we are talking about the two kinds of verb, the finite and the non-finite verb. As I said, she kicks the ball. The verb kicks has got a subject, she, and there's an object, the ball, and therefore we say, and it is limited. It is limited by a person and number of subject. Okay, it is limited by a person, and number of subject, and we call that a finite verb. In the second we have, to love is natural. Here we do not have a subject. And there is no number. So we have a verb without mentioning the subject or limited to person, or therefore we call this a non-finite. The types of non-finites, we have three categories. First, the infinitive, and then the participle, and the third category, the gerund. So now today, we are going to see in detail the first category, the infinitive. Okay, and that's what we are going to look at. Now, when you talk about the infinitive verb is always formed by two. The infinitive is always formed by two. So, let us talk about the infinitive. When you talk about the infinitive, the infinitive is formed by putting two before the verb. We put two, T-O-2, before the first form of verb. Then it is partly like a noun and partly like a verb. So we are adding two to the verb, and it is partly like a verb, partly like a noun. As you go on doing several exercises, you will understand better. The infinitive can also be called a verb noun. The infinitive we can also call it, can also be called a verb noun. A verb, noun. So, because it is partly acting like the verb, partly acting like the noun. So, we call it a verb noun. Okay, how do you form the infinitive? By adding to the verb. Partly a noun, partly a verb. So we can also call it a verb noun. A verb noun. Now I give you some examples for you and me to understand. She began to play. The infinitive. Okay, the first one is she began. She began to play. Another sentence. She began to play. They wanted to leave. They wanted to leave. They wanted to leave. The third one I have here is I told her. I told her to sit. Okay? Then I give you more examples. Rohan is too tired to go out. Rohan is too tired to go out. To go out. Another example for you. Another example for you is apples are sweet to eat. Apples are sweet to eat. And finally, we have one more example. It is difficult to achieve success. It is difficult to achieve. It is difficult to achieve success. Now we are talking about the first category of non-finites, and that is the infinitive. I said the infinitive is formed by adding to the verb. Now the verb can be called either a verb or a noun. So the infinitive, we can also call it a verb noun. Now we have some examples of infinitive here. It is formed by adding to. Now let's look at it very carefully. Now, here we have the infinitive. She began to play. She began to play. We can form the infinitive and we can call it a verb noun also, we said. Now, she began to play. To play. To the verb we added to. I told her to sit. Action word sit. We are forming infinitive. We added to. Apples are sweet to eat. To eat. Again, the verb eat, we are adding to. They wanted to leave. They want to go. Again, to is added. So we have the infinitive formed. Rohan is too tired to go out. To go. To go. Go is a verb. So we are adding to. It is difficult to achieve. Achieve is a verb. Here we are adding to. So in this category, the first category, the infinitive is formed by adding to the verb. To the verb. And here the verbs are play, sit, eat, leave, go, achieve. We have added to form the infinitive. I said the infinitive can be called a verb noun also. Okay, now we have got 6 sentences here. The infinitive we added because we added to the verb. Here we have sentences, the infinitive. She began to play. I told her to sit. The apples are sweet to eat. They wanted to leave. Rohan is too tired to go. It is difficult to achieve. We're talking about the infinitive. How is the infinitive formed? By adding to the verb. Now, the word though to is usually used to form the infinitive, it is omitted when we use words like shall, will, do, and all that. So, we are talking about now, although to is used with the verb to form the infinitive, this to is omitted in certain cases. Okay. The auxiliary verb we are talking about now, when you are using the auxiliary verbs like shall, will, do, did, should, would, may, might, must, could, can. When we use such auxiliary verbs, the to is automatically omitted. For example, we will say, you will eat. You might come. He must come. She can study. You may go. He did come. So like that, the to is omitted. That's what we are looking at. So, though to is used to form infinitive, it is missed out or omitted when you are using the auxiliary verb. To, though, though. To, though, to is usually, though, to is usually used with the infinitive, with the infinitive. Infinitive, it is omitted in the following. It is omitted. It is omitted in the following. In the following. That we'll look at it now. Okay? We need to add to the verb, but in this following, what I'm talking to you about auxiliary verb, we will be omitting the to. Now, we are talking about one auxiliary verb. We're talking about the auxiliary verb. Verbs, auxiliary verbs like shall, will, do, did, should, may, would, might, then we have must, could, and we have can. Now, look at all these auxiliary verbs. When we are using these auxiliary verbs, shall, will, do, did, should, may, would, might, must, could, can. When you use all this, to is omitted. To form the infinitive, we have to use to the verb. Then we get the infinitive. When we are using auxiliary verbs like shall, will, do, did, should, may, could, would, might, must, could, and can, we omit to. Okay. So how will the sentence be? We will write. Example, let's say you will say, we'll take this word will. Then you will say, you will eat. You can say, you will eat. No to is used. Okay? Or you're talking about must. Then we will say, he must come. We will say, he must come. He must come. He must come. But we don't use to the must, to. Another sentence, can. We are using can. Then we'll say, she can study. Or he can study. She can. She can study. We have omitted. It is omitted in the auxiliary verb. Okay, we'll do some more. You may. You have the may. So we will say, you may go. You may go. You may go. So we used may. Then we have other words. Did. He did come. You have did here. Or you can say, she did come. Or she did go. Whatever. Then we have, okay, should. I should do. I should. I should do. I should do. Do my homework, whatever, should. Then we have, they would come. They would come. They would come. And what are the words we have here? Might. He might pass. He might pass. Okay, might. Then, so like this, in the forming of sentence with the auxiliary verbs, we do omit the to. We do not say you to will or you will to eat. No, we will simply say when the usage of would, might, must, could, can, shall, will, do, did, all these auxiliary verbs, when we are using in a sentence, to is omitted. And that's what we are looking at. Although in the infinitive, the verb in the infinitive, we form the infinitive. To the verb, we use the word to come, to go, to dance, whatever. In the auxiliary verb, if we are using auxiliary verb, we have to omit the to in forming the sentence. I've got some more verbs where to is omitted. Now the verbs like bid, hear, make, see, watch, please, need, know, let. Again, when we are using these verbs, to is omitted. Okay? Now, for example, you will say, I bid farewell. Bid. I hear the raindrops. I see a vendor coming. I watch the sunset. Please come in. I need a book. I know that song. I let her in. When we are using such words, we again omit to. Okay, this is the second type. First one, we finished in this second type. Verbs like bid. Verbs like bid, hear, make, see, watch, please, need, know, and let. When you're using these words, we are omitting to. Using of these verbs in the sentence, we do not write to. Like, now, first word we have bid. She bid us, or I bid them farewell. I bid. I bid farewell. Bid. Now, next we have is hear. I hear the children playing, or I hear someone shouting. I hear the cricket making noise. Hear. So you have here, I hear. Okay? Then you can also say, I heard. I heard the children play. You can also say heard. I heard the children play. Oh, I heard the lion roar. I heard the lions roar. Okay? Heard, hear. Make. Okay? Then you can say let. You have here let. Let her come. Let her come. Let her in. Let her in, or let her come. Okay. No. I know. I know that story. I know that story. I know. Or I know him. I know him. Okay, next. Next we have make. They make, or they made. They made noise, or they made a cake. Watch. I watched. I watched the sunset. I watched. I watched the sunset. The sun set. Then, please. Please. Please come in. Please come in. Please. Need. I need an umbrella or a watch. I need. I need a chair. I need a chair. Need. Then we have know. I know him. Okay. While using words like bid, hear, make, see, watch, please, need, know, and let. When we are using such verbs, we usually omit to. So we simply say, I bid farewell, she made me give up drinking, I heard the lions roar, let her come in, please come in, and so on. We do not use to. Only in the formation of infinitive we use to, but while using these verbs, we normally omit to when forming sentences. In the third type, I have for you some more verbs like had better, rather than, would rather. Again, we omit to in forming these verbs in a sentence. Okay, that's the third type. These are phrases. When we have more than one word, we say phrases. So we are in forming sentences. When we have phrases, we omit to in the formation of sentences. Phrases. Phrases like had better. Phrases like had better. I had better not gone there. I would not have gone into trouble. I had better chosen that vehicle. I would have reached faster. So the phrase had better. I had better. I had better. Okay. You can say I had better not gone there. I had better not eaten that rotten food. I had better taken my umbrella, otherwise I would have got caught in. So had better, the phrase, when you use, do not use to. The other phrase is rather than. Rather than. Like saying better than, rather than. Okay? I rather go home than sit and wait for my friends. Rather than. I rather do some useful work than while away my time. I rather go to school and study than sit and sleep in the house. I rather do some useful work than idle away my time. Rather than, the phrase. Okay, another one I have here is would rather. Would rather. Would rather. I would rather go home than get caught in the rain. I would rather wake early. Otherwise, I'll miss the bus. I would rather start early to be on time in school. So the phrases had better. I had better do my homework, otherwise teacher will punish me. Rather than, I would rather eat and go to school than faint in the school. Would rather. I would rather choose this storybook than that. So when we are using these phrases, we do not add to form the sentence. Now let's look at sentence. Okay. I would rather I would rather not eat. I would rather not eat at all. Okay? Another one. Had better. You had better. You had better. You had better sleep now. You're not well. You had better sleep. You had better sleep now. Been talking too much. Okay, so now I rather go home than be here. I had better not gone there. I had better. I had better. I had better not gone to that place. Not. I had better not. I had better not go there. I had better not meet him. Okay. Now, I rather go home than be here. I rather go home. I rather go home than be here. Be here. Rather than. In the phrases, in three phrases we have here, had better, rather than, would rather. In these phrases, when we are using these phrases in a sentence, we omit two in the formation of sentences. That's what we are looking at.